The banking world has become more complicated and difficult to deal with. Constant currency instability has led a lot of people to turn to crypto. However, we believe that banking still should remain one of the crucial parts of your personal as well as business life. Hi, my name is Sadife and I work as a strategy associate here at Nomad Capitalist. Today, we will discuss some banking challenges, how to assess the situation, and what to pay attention to. Now, there are a lot of potential reasons to bank offshore. If you are a real estate investor, having a local bank account can be useful, but sometimes necessary as well. On top of that, in order to purchase real estate in some countries, you will actually need a local bank account. But also, just for the sake of convenience, you would want the income to be deposited in that account. Now, it can also be easier for the maintenance and all expenses related to the real estate as well. Strong fiat currency is important, and people always want to make sure that their money is secure. But also, why not take the advantage of the investment opportunities many banks will offer you? As you have already heard on previous videos on this channel, when you are applying for some residencies and citizenships, a local bank account might be a requirement. For example, a D7 visa in Portugal will require a local bank account and a tax identification number. Or Turkish citizenship by investment will require you to purchase real estate through a Turkish bank account. Apart from that, another reason to diversify your banking, as mentioned before, is the fact that currencies are changing and diversification will not hurt. You would want a bank account that will let you keep multiple currencies and maybe even take advantage of the current state of the US dollar, since we don't know for how long it will stay this strong. Geographical diversification, when it comes to banking, is always something we have to pay attention to. It is a reality that banks often trust transactions within their region. So, for instance, US and Asia can be quite afraid of Russia, and Singapore will be wary of Latin America. Hence, diversification and having accounts in different hemispheres can actually make business transactions easier. This is why it is important to know each region well and to be aware of where and what your business needs are. For example, sending money from Hong Kong to Cambodia is easy. However, if you are sending money from the US, it will not be as easy. If you, for instance, want to own property in Egypt, you should bank either in Egypt or perhaps even the UAE. Another detail is smaller or emerging banks, tunnels, as we like to call them. They are a great opportunity to have a bank account in. They will usually have lower minimum deposits and fewer restrictions. Years ago, you could open a bank account in OCBC Singapore for $100. Now, that is not a possibility. Sometimes even a high deposit will not guarantee that you can open a bank account. And keep in mind that OCBC ranks number 13 in the world when it comes to banks. In our line of work, we understand how important banking is and how important relationships with banks are, and we explore them and keep tabs on them to essentially be up to date with any changes or restrictions. We obviously also value our good connection with many banks, so any recommendations we take for our clients are not taken lightly. Now, some examples of tunnel banks we would recommend are OTP Bank in Serbia and Hungary. Banks we have a great relationship with and good experience as well. There is no minimum deposit. Fees are anywhere from $1 to $4 depending on the country. OTP Bank in Hungary will let you hold about 13 currencies, while in Serbia the number is smaller. You can hold the Serbian dinar, US dollars, and euros. On another hand, Novo Bank in Portugal is, let's say, an emerging bank. A low minimum deposit is 250 euros, which is very appealing if you want to have a bank account in Europe. We can open this account usually remotely using a power of attorney, so there would be no need for a visit. Of course, we would need to obtain a NIF for you first. In case you ever decide to live in Portugal, this can be a good first step to reducing time spent on residency applications. If you are a US citizen, we will need various tax forms though to open bank accounts, not only in Portugal. These forms are a W-9 or a W-4 form. Another bank we like for its service, but gives us a bit of a headache when it comes to the process of opening the bank account is Caye Bank in Belize. The minimum deposit is $1,000 and the monthly fee is 14.5%. Now, this bank is great for a personal account, but also for a corporate account for new businesses, since not many banks will let a business bank there if there's no history. Again, US citizens will need to provide a W-9 form. Now, even though the paperwork is extensive, this is something that, again, we can handle through a power of attorney. On a different part of the world, Georgia. TBC in Georgia is one of probably our favorite banks to bank with. They offer high interest rates on deposit and represent a great tunnel bank account. TBC in Georgia also has no minimum deposit, but if you want your status banking, you will need to deposit 20,000 US dollars and pay a monthly maintenance fee of $15. In Bank of Georgia, a solo account has also no minimum deposit if you can show 1,500 US dollar monthly income. But the recommendation is obviously to deposit more. In Armenia, Ineco Bank and Evoca Bank are great options as well. However, they made changes where they will only take residents as clients. You know, this might be a good step to obtain Armenian residency since it's not really difficult or too expensive. So a good banking option can be an additional benefit to thinking about the Armenian residency. CIM Bank is one of the Swiss banks that will require a deposit of 5,000 euros for a personal bank account. We usually open the account again remotely for our clients, and on top of that, they accept Hong Kong companies as well, which is interesting. However, depending on what your business is, when we talk about corporate banking, it can be better determined additionally which bank is a better fit. Obviously, as with every other process, there are issues and limitations that we face with banking these days. I would say the first issue is de-risking. Banks are increasing minimum deposits and weeding out their clientele. Banks will also tend to close down non-profitable customers. For instance, there was a situation in HSBC in Hong Kong, which we try to avoid at all costs, where about 5 years ago they decided to close down clients' accounts. Now imagine a situation where in the basement of HSBC, clients are literally taking millions of dollars in their back pockets to leave the bank. If you recall, even Armenia, again, has decided to no longer open bank account for non-residents, and many banks around the world have this policy as well, unfortunately. Accepting CRS, like what Georgia will start doing now in 2023, is also a tool used for de-risking. If you don't have a connection to the jurisdiction where you want to open a bank account, it tends to be difficult or even impossible to open it. Such examples are, for example, the Cayman Islands and many European Union countries. When it comes to corporations, depending on where your company is, the banking options will be limited. For instance, Hong Kong companies can bank in Singapore or Labuan and UAE, Caymans, or even domestically. However, when it comes to Hong Kong companies, depending on the structure, you want to be careful if opening a bank account in Hong Kong. Take, for example, OCBC Bank. You might have noticed their flags in one of our videos on YouTube. We have a great relationship with them, even though they are sometimes impossible to work with. However, we got a letter from them stating that now they are only taking Hong Kong companies when it comes to opening corporate bank accounts, which obviously is very limiting. And now we have come to one of our biggest issues when it comes to banks, and that is crypto friendliness. Major banking jurisdictions like Hong Kong, the UAE, are not crypto friendly, although there are talks that UAE is now moving in that direction, although we do not expect to see that improvement until 2026, at least since by then they will release their own cryptocurrency. One bank, however, Rak Bank, has announced a deal with Kraken, and this will allow UAE residents to trade digital assets using a local Emirati bank and dirhams. On the other hand, fintechs, Frick is expensive, but very good with crypto. Mercury Bank is good for business, Dukas Copy, Millennium BCP, and Bison Bank as well. TBC, or Bank of Georgia, which I mentioned, is good with crypto as well as a side bank to use from time to time. Our last issue to discuss today is being American when it comes to banking diversification. Most EU banks will not take US citizens to not deal with FATCA. Some emerging markets are okay, but they will require additional information. Not only the US, but Canadian citizens can encounter issues with some banks in Europe, like Switzerland. Even those banks that do accept US citizens will have major restrictions on investments, like Swissquote in Switzerland, which is crypto-friendly bank, but they will allow US citizens, but will not allow them to trade. Thank you for watching. For more information on this and other topics, you can go to our website, nomadcapitalist.com, where you will also be able to find information regarding our annual event, which will be held this September in Kuala Lumpur.